going on YouTube? JT is Reborn here, and we got some big breaking news that dropped earlier on today, so I'm a little tardy to the party talking about it, but I said I'd make a video on it, and I'll also get my other comic book review out later on, but this is more important than that, because this is the big DC movie slate announcement. So, James Gunn took to Twitter and other various social media platforms to announce Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, DC Studios. So, this is the whole start of the new DC universe. So basically, they have a couple movies that are coming out this year. They have Shazam! Fury of the Gods. They have, which leads into The Flash, which is going to reboot everything basically. And then that'll lead into Blue Beetle, which will then lead into Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, which Blue Beetle and Aquaman are going to be part of the new DC universe. And there's some leftover lingering bits. And then we have the 10 new announced TV shows and movies that were confirmed today by James Gunn. Now, in this video, he goes through it all. He wants to make a cohesive universe. So he talks about things being Elseworlds. He talks about things... I mean, he goes through this whole thing and explains it, but we'll go ahead and go through the article. But if you want to check out the whole video, like I said, it's... about 6 minutes of announcing and all the crazy projects he's going to be doing. We'll go ahead and talk about that next. But like I said, there's articles here. There's articles from Variety. A lot of huge stuff that dropped today. So we are going to get like a reboot, but some actors will carry over, such as Viola Davis's Amanda Waller, a few of the Peacemaker characters, basically the people that James Gunn had already kind of worked with, and you know, doing his thing. Like James Gunn and Peter Safran, basically the people that they worked with are kind of keeping over. Maybe Ezra Miller will stay around, which I don't know, because given that actor's past troubled history in the last year or so, it doesn't seem like the smartest move, but we'll see what happens there. This Flash movie must be really, really good, which James Gunn has kind of elaborated on. But anyway, so these are the first 10 projects in Chapter 1. Now, this isn't everything. They're going to have like a cohesive universe across movies, TV, video games, and probably some comics too. That's the goal, what they're doing. This is Chapter 1, known as Gods and Monsters. So there's 10 projects announced. So you're going to also have the multiverse. You're going to have things, as he mentions here. Basically, this is the big announcement here. So you're going to get the Batman sequel as well, and Joker. Those are going to be considered Elseworld stuff. Those will be set outside the shared continuity, which they will be labeling as Elseworld storylines. So the Batman Part 2, like Matt Reeves' thing, is going to stay its own thing. He got his Penguin show. That's its own little universe, which I think is good. Let that stay standalone, and you don't have to worry about following everything else. But this new universe, it's kind of rebooting based on the Flashpoint thing, and then we're going into this whole shared cohesive universe. So these are quotes from James Gunn again. You can watch the video, and we'll go ahead and go through the slate. So the DCU is a multiverse, but we're going to be focusing on one universe from that multiverse, explained Safran. And if something isn't DCU, we're going to make that very clear. So strictly adult fare like Todd Phillips' Joker or kids animation like Teen Titans Go, we're going to make it very clear that those are DC Elseworlds, just the same way that we do in comic books. But anyways, so like I said, all sorts of different aspects that they're going at with DC. The first part of this chapter, known as Gods and Monsters. All these projects are being worked on. Gunn is writing a few of them, and they have some other creative people in there. So the first one is going to be something known as Creature Commandos. The only character I'm really familiar with this, it looks like Frankenstein. But so James Gunn, the first series that we're doing, I've already written the entire series, is Creature Commandos. It's an animated TV series, and this is art from the animation company that's doing it. Creature Commandos is based on a great team from DC. What we're doing DCU is we're having animation tied directly into live action, television, movies, and gaming, all intertwined within the same universe. We're going to cast actors that are going to be playing the characters in this, as well as other things, some of which we've already cast. I've written all 7 episodes of the show, and it's in production now. The image going from left to right, that's Rick Flag Sr. He's going to show up in the other stuff. Then so-and-so, Dr. Phosphorus, Batman villain, Frankenstein, Eric Frankenstein specifically, the Bride of Frankenstein, who's the lead. Finally, G.I. Robot and Weasel from the Suicide Squad. So Rick Flag's dad is going to be in this, apparently. So that'll be interesting. The next one, of course, is another James Gunn kind of focus series. Is going to be Waller. So this is Viola Davis back as Amanda Waller. Pitch perfect casting, mind you. Viola Davis is to Amanda Waller what J.K. Simmons is to J. Jonah Jameson. It's spot on casting. So this one makes sense why they bring her back. It's coming back to her character, Amanda Waller. This is going to have some of the Peacemaker team in it. So this follows up on Peacemaker, and they have 2 creative teams working on it. So-and-so, who was a writer on the Watchmen TV show, which I wasn't a huge fan of, but Jeremy Carver, who created Doom Patrol, is the positive thing right here, because Doom Patrol Supernatural, I think, is a fantastic DC series that really captures the essence of the zaniness of that property, and it's a very entertaining series, which is coming to an end this year, along with a few other things. So they're closing the door and the chapters on a lot of other things and starting new, which I think, okay, good. Get rid of the CW stuff. We'll start fresh on a lot of things and kind of move forward. So The Flash is going to be like the big catapulting change, which James Gunn said it's one of the best superhero movies he's ever seen. I mean, despite all the craziness behind the scenes, they are not letting go of this Flash movie. So this Flash movie must be really, really good if they're still doing this thing. So Peter Safran, the series will be set between Peacemaker seasons 1 and 2. So interesting. I'm excited for the Amanda Waller series. Then here's the big one, the Superman reboot itself, Superman Legacy. This one is currently being written by James Gunn. It's set to come out in theaters July 11, 2025. So we're only 2 years away from the upcoming Superman movie, and I'm really excited for this because the fact that we haven't had a solo Superman movie in the past 10 years, I think, is ridiculous. This is, as they said, this is the launch of the DCU. The first few projects are an amuse bouche for what's coming up with Superman Legacy. James is currently writing it. Generic title, but, it is what it is. We're hoping that he will direct it. It's not an origin story focused on Superman balancing his Kryptonian heritage with his human upbringing. Superman represents truth, justice, and the American way. Oh my God, they actually let them say that. He is kindness in a world that thinks kindness as old-fashioned. Good. I like to hear this stuff. With our stories, we want to take it away from the good guy versus bad guy. There are really good, almost saintly people, and Superman is among them. Love hearing this. There are really terrible villains like Gorilla Grodd or the Joker, and then there's everybody in between them. So there are all these shades of gray, which allow us to tell complex stories. And we have a release date for this. So yes, Superman and Batman are going to be on the big screen the same year in 2025, so with the Batman Part 2. The next thing up is the long-awaited Green Lanterns TV series, which is just being called Lanterns. Why not just call it Green Lanterns? Or actually, you know what? Calling it Lanterns allows them to play around with the emotional spectrum. So our next project is another television series. We call it Lanterns. It is starring two of our favorite Green Lanterns, Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. Boom. Good. You get both Hal and Jon Stewart. There's always that debate, like, do we get Hal? Do we get Jon? I like both of them. I grew up with Jon Stewart on the Justice League cartoon before I really followed Hal's story, but of course there's going to be other ones as well. Sprinkled into the series, so I think this is a good sign. It's going to be with HBO Max, as with all of our series that we're going to be talking about today. It's more of a true detective type mystery with our two lanterns, a terrestrial-based mystery that leads into the overall story that we're telling throughout the different movies and television shows. We find an ancient horror on Earth, and these guys are basically super cops on Precinct Earth. The story is going to weave back and forth between the films and television shows. Peacemaker is a good example of how that works, and that's what we're going to do with this big overarching story that we're telling. So the overarching story, it's still a bit of mystery. They haven't revealed everything, of course, in this phase 1, as they're calling it, or Gods and Monsters, so they're still keeping things more closely to the chest, but it should be interesting. Next up is The Authority live action movie. This is one of my real passion projects. I've been working really hard with the writers, and we're starting to put together the entire story. This is a big story, big movie. I don't know how many of you are familiar with The Authority. They're Wildstorm characters. Wildstorm was a comics imprint that was bought by DC that I really love. We're moving a lot of these Wildstorm characters into the DCU. The Authority is a very different kind of superhero story. They are basically a good intention, but they think that the world is completely broken, and the only way to fix it is take things into their own hands, whether that means killing people, destroying heads of state, changing governments, basically. What do they want to do to make the world better? We'll see how that journey goes for them. They are morally great characters in our DCU, of which these are. We love that they think the ends justify the means, and they're the ones that decide what the right ends are. So, okay, Authority, this could be very interesting. This next one is Paradise Lost, which is going to be an HBO Max series, a Game of Thrones-esque series set in Themyscira on Paradise Island, and the home of the Amazons and the birthplace of Wonder Woman. So this is set really far into the past. It's an origin story of how the Society of Women came about. What does it mean? What are their politics like? What are their rules? Who's in charge? What are the games that they play with each other to keep to the top? I think that's really exciting. The events take place before Diana's birth. So, and here's the big one for me personally. This is the one that got me the most excited. The Brave and the Bold. As you can see, that's Damian there, and of course this is Dick Grayson, Batman. But yes, Gunn, this is the introduction of the DCU's Batman. It is not Robert Pattinson. It is not Ben Affleck. We're working with Robert on the Batman Part 2 with Matt Reeves, and we're working with Ben Affleck, who has been a part of our team trying to bring things together, and he really wants to direct one of our projects. We're excited for him to do that. I actually think Ben Affleck may direct this movie. He won't star in it, but he will direct. I think he's going to direct The Brave and the Bold. But this is the story of Damian Wayne. Finally, Damian is getting the live-action treatment. He didn't end up on Titans, at least in the last couple episodes. I doubt he is, since that show's ending. This is very exciting. As you know, who's followed my channel, he is my favorite Bat Family character. But this is the story of Damian Wayne, who's Batman's actual son that he didn't know existed for the first 8 to 10 years of his life. He was raised as a little murderer and assassin. He's my favorite Robin, so there you go. It's based on Grant Morrison's comic run, which is one of my favorite Bat runs. We're putting it all together now. This is going to feature other members of the extended Bat Family, just because we feel like they've been left out of the Batman stories in the theater for far too long. Thank God. We've had so many Batman movies over the years, but we do not ever get to see the Bat Family together. This is going to be it. Damian's going to be in there, which means that Dick, Jason, Tim, Steph, Cass, Barbara, Duke, and probably everyone else is already going to be established. I would assume that Tim is the current Robin at the time in this thing before Damian gets brought in. Nightwing, because there's no way he's not going to bring in Dick Grayson into this DC universe. Maybe Matt Reeves is going to tell the younger Dick Grayson story, and we'll already have Nightwing, Red Hood, and that established in this thing. Because if Matt Reeves is telling his story, then we might as well get the established heroes in here. And I get it. Some people want to sit and wait and watch the whole thing from Dick all the way up to Damian and all that. But by that point, like, I feel like the universe should already be kind of tapped out. Because with the comics, like, it's a little bit easier to do the time jumps, and animation's kind of the same deal. This one, we already will have an established group of heroes, which I'm fine with. I don't think we necessarily need to do the origin story for every single character. You can kind of hint at it, and you can kind of spin off in various forms of animation and comics and stuff. But I'm so excited for this one. This is my most anticipated DC Slate thing. I know it's another Batman thing, but for God's sakes, we have not had Batman and Robin on the big screen together since Batman and Robin, which is an insane feat. I'm not counting The Dark Knight Rises, that whole Robin, John Blake thing. I'm talking Batman and Robin. And the fact that it's going to be Damian is a lot more interesting to me. Because with Damian, whereas with the other ones where some people may be like, why is Batman putting a kid in danger or whatever? With Damian, he's kind of raised on that, it'll basically be kind of like Hit Girl from Kick-Ass, and like if you can get something like, because Hit Girl and Kick-Ass, when that movie came out, everyone was like, Hit Girl is like the coolest damn thing possible. But with Damian, you can kind of utilize something in that capacity, but kind of playing with his upbringing and Bruce's, and just kind of seeing that moral conflict there. So I think there's a strong potential here, and I get some people's concern about, hey, we're kind of skipping Robins and all that. We've never seen what Robin is, but I think we'll be okay. But the point being is, I am so excited that Damian's coming to live action. The casting of that's going to be very, very tough, but I think it'll work out. I think Ben Affleck's going to direct this one. If he's going to work on a project Batman related, I think Brave and the Bold's the one he's going to do. I think the father-son story is interesting because he is a father himself, and he's wanted to direct something. And of course, they happen to coyly bring him up here. But if Ben Affleck can finally direct a Batman movie, but just not like his own script that was before, but something kind of new where he doesn't have to have the pressure of actually starring in it, but just directing it, I think this will be the one for it. Next up is Booster Gold, which is a live-action HBO Max series. This is the role I can see Chris Pratt playing. I know a lot of people have probably already speculated on that, but Booster Gold is really funny. A total fan favorite, as you know, a loser from the future who uses basic magic future technology to come back to today to pretend to be a superhero. I think that it is basically the story of a superhero's imposter syndrome. How do you deal with that? It's about how he tries to use his future technology to be loved by the people of today, and what is it really? The base of it's a character story is going to be a very different type of show, and we're talking to an actor about it right now. So we'll see who it is. I think this will probably be Chris Pratt in the DCU, because like he kind of fits the mold of it. Like, or maybe we can get like Glenn Howerton from Always Sunny. If he wants to do it. But yeah, like I said, there's a lot of cool potential with it there. Next up is Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. This is based on Tom King's work, which I'm kind of surprised for. But basically, you're going to talk about how this is a little bit of a jaded viewpoint. She didn't grow up with a loving family. She got to see her planet die and all that other stuff. More effed up Supergirl than you've ever seen thus far. But it's going to be kind of like a grand space kind of opera right here. Like a grand space epic right here. This is based on Tom King's this. Tom is one of my architects of the entire situation, which a little bit concerning given some of the stuff Tom King has written before. But I hope that like the best stuff he's done is integrated here, not like Heroes in Crisis or the Batman Catwoman comic run that we've seen, but that is the only bit that kind of concerns me. He's one of the guys in the room with us along with our 5 other writers. I love his take on these characters. He just turns them slightly to be something very unique. In our story, we have Superman, who was sent to Earth and raised by incredibly loving parents. Kara was on Krypton. She was on a piece of Krypton that drifted away from the planet. She lived there for the first 14 years of life in a horrible situation where she watched everyone around her die. So she's a much harsher and more fucked up Supergirl than you've been used to thus far. So that one could be interesting. And then lastly, we have a live-action movie about Swamp Thing. And again, this is only 10 things announced right now, and then you have other projects in development. The final film we want to talk about is Swamp Thing: We Grew Up, because it's important to point out that in these stories, although they're interconnected, they're not all totally the same. Each set of filmmakers bring their own aesthetic to these films, and the fun is seeing how these totally different works match together in the future. This is a film that will investigate the dark origins of Swamp Thing, and we'll get a lot of cool stuff here. And we're actually developing a few other things as well, but for one reason or another, we can't say them. This is the first batch of stuff, and there may be a couple of surprises to come. So, yes, actually, excuse me 1 second. My battery seems to be dying. But I am very, very enthusiastically excited for this new slate of DC stuff. Just 1 second right there. Let me fix this problem. Okay, cool. Had to plug in my phone, or my laptop really quick. But anyways, yes, so I'm excited for this slate. It's nice to just have some announcements of projects to come and that they're trying to build a cohesive vision right now. Again, I think other places have kind of gone into more depth, and I think there's been more interviews about different things kind of going on with this things. They got a few other people in here. Variety mentions some actors will return, some will be different. They brought in Drew Goddard, who was talented Jeremy Slater, Christina Hodson, whose Batgirl was scrapped, Watchmen, Tom King, all sorts of different people kind of coming in to kind of work together and hash out this overall plan. So movies, which we got right here. Damian, of course, this is one of the most exciting aspects of it for me. And just kind of seeing the other things. Again, there's more things that we haven't seen yet, but all these concepts sound kind of interesting to me. And I'm actually looking forward to this animated one, too, which I don't really know much about, Creatures Commando or whatever it is, but I think it just sounds kind of unique and an interesting story to watch unfold. But yes, so I'm excited for the slate. I think there's a lot of potential with it, and like I said, this is exciting stuff for me. I know they're holding back on a lot of things. I think, like I said, for Batman, I think Ben Affleck is going to direct the Brave and the Bold movie. That one, again, this is Dick and Damian, for those who don't know, which I wonder like how that'll be integrated into the whole thing. But I think, like I said, Affleck will do this, but I think casting Damian will be the most challenging part. I say go for an unknown actor who kind of fits like the in-between of Bruce and Talia. Obviously, he should have a mixed background given, where his mother's heritage is and his father's is. They're, a little bit different, if you will. But there should be a tragic love story in there with Bruce and Talia. I think this is also a chance to kind of fix some of the boo-boos of the Grant Morrison thing. For instance, the whole like drugging of Batman thing, don't have that in there at all. Like that's something that should be omitted immediately, and you could just have it. They were lovers who had like a falling out years ago or something like that. That's all you need to do. You don't have to overly complicate it with some, Batman is always prepared for things. No, if he's loved somebody and they loved him back, there's something that split them apart, but there still kind of should be that connection there, which is what made the characters fascinating to begin with. But yeah, so like I said, this is the one I'm most looking forward to. Swamp Thing should be very exciting. Booster Gold, Superman, the Lantern series, Superman, Amanda Waller. Like I said, some stuff I don't really know as much about, Creature Commandos, but that's like more obscure stuff. I'm sure it'll be fun. The Authority is something I'm not quite as familiar with. But like I said, some of the other stuff I am. Like I said, Booster Gold should be a fun one. Supergirl can be interesting, and Swamp Thing, this one I think will be rated R, so that'll be pretty cool. But yeah, so they haven't announced everything fully, but this is a good like first 10 projects. And they didn't even confirm what video games are coming and tied into it all. But it is an interesting and kind of exciting thing for the next phase of DC and their movie lineup. So I'm looking forward to it. I wonder if anyone else is. So go ahead and post your comments down below, and we'll talk more about this stuff. And yeah, also look forward to more comic book stuff. I didn't get the chance to read today's comic yet, but I will go ahead and do so after this video, and then I don't know which one I'll post first, probably the other video, but you get the idea. But anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, what you think of this plan. Are you excited for it? Is there things that concern you? I'm just glad that DC seems to have a vision and kind of branching out into different aspects of it all at once, instead of just kind of like the tones and styles are kind of a little bit different. I know James Gunn is the architect of it all, but it's nice to have a large variety of projects and to tell kind of a cohesive story, but they have to kind of stick with it is the thing. None of this, we're rebooting again, or we're changing the tone, changing this, changing that constantly. it should be a more consistent thing. So hopefully they're actually like allowed to tell this overarching story, and we can get something really exciting out of it with unique visions. Because even James Gunn mentions the idea of letting filmmakers showcase their unique vision, because he's a filmmaker first and a writer first. And they did mention, I don't know if this is video or one of the other articles that I read today, that they're not going to like move forward on anything until the scripts are 100% complete. So these things are announced, but it's still a work in progress thing right now. And a lot of stuff is going pretty well, but before they fully move forward with filming things, because he even mentioned like a lot of movies are filmed without the third act actually being written, before, you know, things go out of hand crazy, they just kind of shoot things. But like he wants to make sure that things are written, things are good, and the quality is maintained throughout. And so far, James Gunn DC stuff has been pretty good. Like I really like Peacemaker, and I enjoyed the Suicide Squad quite a bit. So we'll see where things go from here. But anyways, post your comments down below, like and share, subscribe, all that other fun stuff. Which movie or TV show are you most looking forward to? What's the biggest surprise for you? And what do you want to see in the new DC universe in Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters? So yeah, there you go. Post your comments down below, all that other fun stuff. As always, take care now. Bye-bye then, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.